How we doing, everybody? This is AJ Torres of CallingStrikes, courtesy of Undrafted Sports. And today I got two guys with me, and let's just keep it real. These are cool guys,
Oh,
passionate guys,
oh,
and obviously they got a face that's for video and not radio. We
thank you.
got
Oh, come on, you're too
DeFran and
nice.
we got Sam.
How
Thank
y'all
you.
So,
doing?
so tell me, guys. Might as well, DeFran. I'll have you go first. Tell us your name, what you're about, all that, and then we'll go with Sam.
Well, my name is Mike DeFran. I'm from Illinois. Want to say thank you for AJ for having us and for the awesome introduction. It's one of the I'm blushing as you can see, but yeah, we're both just some Seahawks fans, and today we're talking about just kind of what it's like to be a fan of a team that is nowhere close to you. So all three of us kind of have experience with that. So look forward to a good conversation today.
Yeah, it should be fun. I am Sam Belcher. I live in Connecticut, Central Connecticut, and I am the co-host of the Always Compete Seahawks podcast with Mike there.
Oh, hey,
And
how's it going?
so feel free to check that out. But
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of my qualifications for being here, and we're gonna be having a nice conversation about something that's not super common, but
Mhm.
something that we all three of us can relate to. So I'm ready to hop on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting because everybody kind of wanted to know the story about how I became a Yankee fan. And I simply had a cousin that was suffering from leukemia just a couple houses down from where I still am now. And I'm pretty sure that Derek Jeter, when he was in the hospital, came to visit him. And that just kind of sealed the deal. It's impossible not to,
Yeah.
especially since, listen, there's a big thing about Derek Jeter because of the ESPN documentary they want to do similar to Michael Jordan. But mind you, it was also because of just the way that he carried himself, the way that he carried himself and the way that he followed the media, embraced it, and did it well. And granted, he's being slandered by his defense. But if you look at Derek Jeter on and off the field, regardless of his defense, he still is a god of New York. And even his wife said, I knew Derek, the guy who I was going out with, like Derek Jeter, my boyfriend. And then I'm sitting next to his family at the ball game, and I'm seeing Derek Jeter, the guy in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So it was impossible doing this. So a Ranger fan when I was, basically I'm around high school and past that, where, I was a believer of about 70+% of the world is covered by water. The rest is covered by Hank Lundqvist.
Mm.
So it's kind of routine
Mhm.
there. And even though I absolutely hate the Knicks and the Rangers owner, when it came to other teams, I recently became a Pacers fan because I wanted to get into basketball. I had to pick by ownership, went by, passion, swagger, all that, became a Pacers fan. But I was a Chiefs fan going back to backyard football days. I just loved the Arrowhead logo, loved the uniform colors, and it just stuck. I was playing backyard football on a PC.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
it's just kind of how it goes. But I'm pretty sure you guys know, it's like you go if you're in your gear, right? Like you guys know if you're in Seahawks gear, doesn't matter if it's a jersey and a hat or whatever. They're kind of looking at you. Not so much the hat because there's a lot of people that wear different hats around me. But ironically, Danbury, Connecticut is Hat City.
That's cool.
You could actually look it up,
It is.
man. There was actually a big giant hat factory when everyone wore a suit and a fedora. There was actually they were actually making a lot of hats for the world, and there are these rivers where if they were making red hats one day, the dye could be seen floating down the water.
Hmm.
So it's like, hey, Red Hat Day. Okay, the river's red.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, you could look that up, man. Danbury, Connecticut is Hat City. But back on track. You're telling me that if you wear a Seahawks jersey and you're going out to a restaurant, people are kind of looking at you like, this
Yeah.
dude's in left field. What is he doing? So, which is kind of why I got this thing going on called the Left Field Fan. And it's just simply about where a bunch of guys, or, ladies too, you're in a certain location, you just simply don't fit in. I mean, kind of fit the bill, and you guys kind of fit the bill just like me. There's a lot of passion that comes with this, but just amount as love as well as pain.
Yep.
So tell me, Sam, I'll have you go first. Because Connecticut, it's kind of weird because you're at the part where it's what I call the division of Connecticut.
Mhm.
As in, when it comes to sports, you're basically on the dividing line. You can flip a coin and you can just pick where you want to go.
Yeah.
So, how did you become a Seahawks fan, man?
Well, I mean, I really didn't know about sports before I became a Seahawks fan, honestly. One day, I just kind of decided to go to it. And, there's a couple different factors. I think it was mainly because I just liked the energy that they gave off. And also, I'm going to admit it. They were good at the time. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be a fan of this team because they're good. But I'm not necessarily a bandwagon because of that. I'm just more. It's stuck very heavily, and I am diehard. But it was just kind of a thing, mixing of their energy. I really liked their attitude, and I liked how everything just kind of came together for me. So I decided that was going to be kind of my team, and it's stuck ever since. And going on your point about just especially with Connecticut, I'm central Connecticut, and I'm more north, so it's there's a perfect mixing pot of Boston and New York. Like there will be like you go into like
I don't think that's perfect.
Yeah, it's definitely not perfect. But you walk into a restaurant and you'll see 3 people wearing Giants shirts, a couple people wearing Jets shirts, 5 people wearing Patriots shirts, Boston, the Red Sox, the Yankees. Like it's everything kind of mixing together from like the 2 regions. So when I walk in with a Seahawks shirt or a Seahawks jersey, I get mostly looks from Patriots fans because of
Please don't bring it up.
Hey,
Don't
Sam, did you ever hear about the secret? Now, my father, Aldo, told me this. There are no Patriot fans for the most part before 1995.
I've heard the same. I've heard the same because they were pretty bad. They were pretty bad up until that point. And up until 95, they got Drew Bledsoe and everybody kind of started coming in, and then they got Belichick and Brady, and then it kind of goes
game over
from there.
Yeah, game over.
But I would definitely say that this area is mostly Boston dominated. And
the last couple of years, why not, right?
Yeah, and especially Boston sports, you will come to learn is just they need to be the best at every single thing they do. They need to be the best, and you will know that. Patriots fans whine, Red Sox fans they whine,
Celtics fans are the worst.
Fans, I'm sure they whine, and then there's the Celtics who they're just spoiled out of their life. And
I will say though, the best out of the 4 is definitely the Bruins,
which is
I don't
awesome.
Really keep on top of hockey. I don't really keep on top of hockey, but
I went to a Capitals Bruins game, and it was a great place to be. And even though I was a Rangers fan and hiding and just seeing a game, and I just wore neutral clothes, I had the pleasure of sitting next to a couple passionate Capitals fans, and sure enough, I just kind of, I at first, the people around me don't know that I'm not a fan or whatever the teams, but I shook hands with the Capitals fan next to me. It was a great time. It really was. If anyone has the pleasure of being at a major event like that, TD Garden, when you're in a neutral kind of persona, it's a good experience. It really is. But when you're against, I mean, you just hear it, you're like, hey buddy, down in front.
Yeah, and
you with the blue.
Yeah,
you in the wrong place. You know how to use the bathroom correctly.
Like once again, Boston fans are Boston just overall sports fans tend to be bad. My neighbor is a Patriots fan.
I'm so sorry, Sam. I'm so sorry.
I'll be outside. I'll just be sitting in my backyard, and he'll be like, "How about the Patriots? Cam Newton is taking us all the way."
Oh God! Baby. Oh God, Sam!
Why did Brady leave? Brady had no reason to leave. Brady, you gave Brady everything.
You just hear him like crying at 3 a.m.
Cam Newton Super Bowl is that guy out of his mind?
I don't know, man.
Sam, do you ever just like at 3 a.m. just hear him like crying, like, why did Brady leave?
He's whined several times.
The guy's drinking his Sam Adams out of a baby bottle because he doesn't know how to cope with life. You know, it's kind of funny because they kind of treat this like the stock market. It's like I told like some of the guys from Undrafted, there's some of the guys that are heavy in the stocks, right? Now, mind you, I clock in at 7:00, and by the time 9:00 comes around, I get the notifications on my phone. I'm already having my muffin, my breakfast in the morning, okay? And if something bad happens, like something goes down like 15%, I'm already at work, okay? If I wake up at 6:00 on the, it's West Coast or so at that time. So if I wake up at 6:00 and the things start coming in, I'm like, it crashed 15%. Guess what? I'm hugging myself, calling my boss, calling out of work, going back to bed. I don't feel well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I kind of think about that guy. It's just kind of like, I don't trust my quarterback. I don't feel well. I'm calling out of work.
Yeah.
I can't adult right now.
Yeah. And especially last year when it was kind of like their first taste of like realization, like the Red Sox were not good. We're not great last year. The Patriots weren't great last year. The Celtics went far, but didn't go all the way, which is what they expect every year, of course. So it's like a constant trail of like, if we're not the best, we're going to make sure that you feel that we are not upset. That's kind of how they
Sam, how much crap did you talk when we beat the Patriots this year? How much crap?
A lot.
I would imagine. Sure. You need to.
A lot of friends that I have are Patriots fans or Giants fans. No Jets fans that I know, but I feel like everybody kind of defaults to Giants where I am. But it's certainly just a wide array of people here. There's a couple Cowboys fans for some reason. They're
just like scattered. I feel like Cowboys. There's like a couple in each area.
I feel like. The thing is, if it's a rival of one of those teams, you're going to find just like a small pocket of those people around. Like you'll find a couple Cowboy fans in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Vice versa.
That does happen. There's also a couple of Eagles fans that I've seen. So it's
weird in Connecticut. Again, you'll have like a small pocket full of them, but definitely rare.
It's rare for sure. And just kind of bringing it back to the main point. Whenever I wear a jersey out, I get some looks because the Seahawks are almost as far as they can be, So when I go out and I wear a Russell Wilson jersey or a Jamal Adams jersey, and I'm walking out and I see a Patriots fan wearing like a Tom Brady jersey for some reason, I see a Patriots fan giving me looks. I see Giants fans giving me looks. And it is what it is. Because at the end of the day, I know that we're better.
And Jet fans can't give you anything because just a couple of years ago, we knew that the Giant and Jet season were over, and MLB didn't even start the playoffs yet.
Yeah,
and you know how sad that is?
It's
awesome.
It's bad. It's bad.
So hold on. September baseball's not over, and we could already write you off.
That's hilarious.
That's terrible.
That's hilarious. Is what it is.
Again, you're drinking your New York lager out of a baby bottle.
Yeah. It's once again.
And if you're Matt Harvey, you're hitting the scotch, and you're not showing up to work in the morning.
Yeah, but the teams around here, most of them, like football teams especially, are not great. I think every team in this area that has a wide fan base had a losing record. So people were kind of afraid to rep last year. I didn't see a lot of Patriots fans as back when Brady was around.
Did they disappear? Wow, what happened? Did they all migrate to Tampa, Florida?
I don't know.
I want to say 1/3 of them did. The other one were in hiding. And I remember when everyone was calling Eli Manning garbage remember when Tony Romo was the most disrespected quarterback in the NFL and then Eli Manning took over that role?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Somewhere a little before the Romo reign was over, I saw a lot of Giant fans in hiding. And listen, I get it. And you got to be tough to be a Jet fan, even in a tanking year. You do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, listen, it was mutual when it became down when I was a kid where, my dad's just kind of like, I don't know if I can make you a Jet fan. And I'm just kind of like, good. And he goes, okay, well, we've kind of reached an agreement. So that means no. So I
Yeah.
kind of had to find my own path. And mind you, my uncle Paul Fauché, and he can be a little bit salty, but he's definitely one of the most passionate Steeler fans out there. I mean, he's been a fan of this since he was a kid in the the early 70s when he's, in elementary school.
That's
That's
awesome.
just how
Yeah,
that part goes.
That's
nice.
awesome. That's awesome.
dope. Sticking to his
So
gun.
as far as baseball goes, I mean, I know, Mike, you're a Cubs fan, so that's a neutral
side, baby.
territory. And Sam, I know me and you kind of had this big discussion of what you wanted to do. And the thing is, when you get to that point where you're in high school or you're mature enough, or essentially you're old enough where you could know who's a good or a bad owner, what the team is about, if they spend money or if they don't know where to crap or get off the pot, how the fans react. Some of them are just not allowed to have nice things as well. So I'm not sure if you've just found a favorite player or whatever it is, but I found it very interesting when I was picking a basketball team, what it was. And one of the things that weighed to me was ownership, because there's a lot of teams that will never see even playoff success because of their bad ownerships, or maybe they just don't get there, or maybe they taste it once every 5 or 6 years, and it's just a disappointing cycle that just keeps repeating itself. So even though there's never been this big success, I'm very happy to rock the blue and gold. Baseball, I mean, have you got any closer, or have you just not thought about it too much yet?
Yeah, I've definitely started to. I kind of defaulted Red Sox because of my family's connection.
Okay, AJ,
So,
dude. AJ's like,
All
oh
right.
my god. Oh my god.
yeah, I'm sorry,
Hey,
and
hey,
I'm not
listen,
diehard. I'm not gonna
listen.
argue with you,
I'm not
but
gonna
I
hate
just kind of
either, my
monitor.
man. I'm
I
not
just
gonna
kind of
hate.
monitor.
Wait,
Yeah.
Sam, does this mean that you've now joined the Boston mob of fans?
No, I have not. I'm not
Okay.
passionate enough. I'm not
Okay.
passionate
Good.
enough. I mean, I really joined because of connections, and I'll watch a game here and there, and I kind of do it more just to have something to do during this time of year when the NBA is kind of dying down, but then it's going to pick back up soon, which I'm looking forward to.
Right.
And my team isn't playing in the NBA playoffs, so
Neither's mine, man.
Wait,
Neither's mine.
I know that you're a Bulls fan, DeFran. Sam, what fan are you?
Once again, another left field team. I'm a Thunder fan, and I'm loyal Thunder fan. I'm not just a KD fan or a Westbrook fan. I am sticking to my guns as a Thunder fan, and I'm looking forward to this full-on rebuild that we are putting on for the next
The
10 years.
Tankathon.
My grandkids are gonna just have witnessed the dynasty of OKC due to their 95 first-round draft picks that you guys have.
It's
Sam
Hey.
Presti is literally playing 2K in real life.
Sam Presti, if you scared money don't make money, all right? So you need to go all out. You need to go all out.
I will say, though, what happened with me was I actually got out my binder that I put a lot of notes in. This is stuff I do for my fan fictions, my novels, my articles, you name it. Now, I've kind of gone all over the place with all these notepads, all this ludicrous crapola. But I actually wrote down every single NBA team on this list, and I narrowed it down into different tiers. I'm not sure if I still have that piece of paper. I'm pretty sure I have it somewhere. But there's a couple where I'm just kind of like, I'm thinking about ownership. Again, there's a good chance that just because of the slander I've said online, I'm pretty sure that there's two things I'm banned from. Number one, I'm probably most likely banned from having any season ticket qualification to the Washington football team, because if you didn't know this, my insights actually have told me that if you slander the Washington team in the media, even back when it was Redskin days, Dan Snyder actually has a full department where he goes through their system, right? Because if you say something in the newspaper, somebody will go through their system. And if your name is on there and your government name is on there, they'll revoke your tickets.
That's just a classic. It's like if I had to guess a move that Dan Snyder would make, it would be it would be something like that.
You
Revoking.
want to talk about ownership? Like, Dan
well, yeah.
Snyder
So
is
when
the only, is like truly the only unanimously decided horrific owner in sports. I mean, not in sports, in football.
Spanos was up there too. Shout
listen,
out Terry, by the way.
I said this. I said the worst owner in North American sports is Dan Snyder, and the second is definitely James Dolan. Listen, I'm a Ranger fan, but I've slandered James Dolan so much, and he's been so petty. Because if you haven't noticed, Tom Thibodeau came in. There was a lot of doubts, and I said this. And even if you guys have ever heard of John Jastrzemski, he used to do JJ After Dark instead of going. He's got a part of a podcast now called New York, New York. He's a Dolphins fan, a Yankee fan, a Knick fan, all that. And he goes, let me tell you guys, if there is some coach that will get in here who's not going to get fired in his first year, if you're telling me that he's going to get the Knicks to the 4th seed in the playoffs, fans will think he can walk on freaking water.
Yep.
And sure enough, what did we say? Water. Julius Randle is playing basically like a dumbed down version of Julius Erving, and it's working. Yeah. And what happens when you give when New York fans are optimistic? What happens? Things happen. The New York Yankees optimistic, 1 game away from the World Series. We're screwed by the appearance because of the cheating Astros. The Knicks fans, you got the 4th seed in the playoffs. What are you complaining about? See, optimism, people, it works.
Yeah. Yep. And even like you talk about with like the Jets and the Giants, they're not good, but there's optimism surrounding those teams.
You know, with the Jets, I'm actually saying no because they're just like the NBA. There is a second overall curse.
Yeah,
in football as well.
As a partial Bears fan, I can attest to this second overall curse with Trubisky.
Well, I think that was just a bad base decision, but also
they didn't have
the crap that's going on with Zach Wilson and his mom, and he hasn't played one down of football. If this doesn't say Disaster City all over it, I have no idea what you're drinking, but you need to put the sauce down. Let's
all just forget what I said on the draft live stream about Zach's mom. Totally, never said that. Never said that. Just want to get that out of the way. Thought I was muted. It's slipped. I don't know what to tell you. But
now I got to throw your headphones over that one now, are we?
Oh, that was. I got banned for a little bit. I got banned for a couple picks for that
one. Well, Sam, you weren't around, but I saw this guy during the NBA draft. This guy wanted who did you want?
Devi.
Yeah, you want?
How to say his name?
I can't remember his name.
He went to the Wizards.
Avdia. That's all I know. That's
his
last
name. That's who he wanted, and he didn't get it. This guy literally, he just goes, walks out.
Yeah.
Need to cool off, storms off like Archie Bunker.
Avdia hasn't been that great. So, I mean.
Hey, since draft night, I said, Patrick Williams, stud. Been playing great basketball lately. I mean, I practically guaranteed that the guy would be an all-star. So obviously I was very happy with the Bulls selection right there. And I never doubted that it was the right move for a second. So completely satisfied with that move.
Well, I mean, it's just, who you want versus what happens in actuality. I mean, there's sometimes where, this is the thing where I'm kind of off, a little on and off the fence with it, because there's going to be a lot of people in their fan base that say, trust your guy. Like a lot of people, I had the chance to go on to McConnell and Joshua's Trust the Bank podcast, TDB, Ravens Media. And these guys are like, this guy's not a Chiefs fan. And I'm like, so hold on. One pick that I don't agree with my general manager, because I'm thinking longevity. You pick a rental player in what you think is a dynasty with all the art pieces you put on this offensive lineman. You needed him. You absolutely needed him. And I thought you could have a stud offensive lineman on there for 4, possibly 5 years. Right. I thought it wasn't bad for me thinking about this. And I think it was okay for me to be a little upset. But I still love my general manager and what my team has on the table. And I think that's what some people don't just, I just don't think people agree with that. But I will say, from a guy that had Trent Green as his first starting quarterback and my first jersey being Priest Holmes, Now that there's, let's see, running back is Clyde Edwards-Helaire and quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. Big ass difference. And let me tell you something. KC fans, I will admit, have gotten friggin' salty, and it's pissing me off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you want to talk about just mind-boggling decisions and just having to trust your general manager. I mean, you're talking to two experts right here. Every year, we did, I think, 4 or 5 mock drafts. We did not select a single player that the Seahawks took. We were completely out of it. Every year, it's just out of left field. It seems like we got some guy that nobody's ever heard of. And some of the times they end up being really, really good. And other times, it's Jermaine Ifedi. Sam, we love Jermaine Ifedi, obviously. We talk about him all the time. But, it's just like, dude, I am never like, oh, yes, that's the guy I really wanted.
I will say, just don't beat yourself up too hard, guys, because I had my mock draft predictions, and some people thought that I was absolutely crazy. But if you want to go by crazy, Alex Leatherwood was a huge reach by the Raiders, and I thought that he would be potentially in, the red and gold or the red and yellow.
They've reached 3 straight seasons from a player from Alabama.
I remember.
But also, you guys only had 3 picks. Now, I did give you my draft grade for the at least I did to DeFran. Sam, as far as my draft grade for the Seahawks, I think I gave them it was between a C- and a D. But that's not on but that's not really on, it's such a small sample size. And I'm not saying it's the worst draft in there. The worst draft this year by far was the Houston Texans.
Horrible.
Well,
David Mills, baby.
As far as I'm concerned, I gave it a D because, okay, what's your quarterback situation like? And him aside, okay, how many wide receivers you have? You have so many guys in the wide receiver position. Forget the bench. Pull out the freaking couches with, them leaning back in because they might as well get comfortable. Screw the Gatorade guy. I'll give him a beer. He's got to be there all day.
Yeah.
How many tight ends do you need? You picked up like a 7th tight end in the draft. What are you, the last year's Chicago Bears? Come on.
Oh, okay. Well,
and then what? What is the number one thing that they decided to neglect? J.J. Watt out, Shaq Lawson in. But guess what? Do you take Shaq or do you take JJ? If you think that they're the same, then guess what? You have no improvement on pass rush.
Yeah.
They cannot go through safety cones at that point, and that is why I gave them a D. Now, did I think that their draft stock had part to do with it? Yes. But if you look at the edge rushers they passed up as well as the offensive linemen, I had to give them a D, and that's why I put it in my article.
Yeah.
So I understand when it comes to ownership. Back to the Thunder. There's two owners of the Thunder, and I know that there's been a relocation thing going on the past couple of years that they've been weighing. Some of them have actually been saying go back to Seattle.
That would be kind of crazy. I'm not even gonna lie.
If there's a big disgruntlement about that, I'm just not down with it, and that's it. And like I said, ownership, particularly when in baseball, I think. And the reason being is because I think in baseball, and this is a baseball podcast, but just remember this, and I think you guys know this. You cannot have one draft or one free agent and have your team go worst to first.
Ask the Angels with Mike Trout. Sorry, Jake. Sorry to do you like that, but that's the point right there. Mike Trout is the best player in baseball, and he has been for a very long time. And the Angels have won one playoff game. One playoff game?
Actually, right now, I think that guy is Ohtani.
Yeah, and they're not good. They're not good this year either. So,
well, there's just a lot of things, and also there's a very underrated and underlooked player on that team, and his name is Anthony Rendon.
Anthony Rendon. I think he's the least talked about former MVP, in the last.
I think as far as the least talked about star player, the guys that they forget about.
Yeah.
It's you realize that Anthony Rendon is your starting third baseman on here. It's like Albert Pujols. Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer, but he jumped ship. Okay. Did you forget that Anthony Rendon exists?
I understand Fletcher's
a tough man or whatever, but I mean, it's okay. You don't have to. It's not like you got to be Josh Donaldson where you have this anger that you challenge before every single game because it's your style of play.
Right.
It's not. It's really just, he does his thing and, plays good defense. You don't hear anything bad about him, but you're also not hearing the great things. It's like, unless that guy right now has the go ahead run, you're not hearing about him, man. It's a shame. It's a crying shame. I mean, do you think that there's Seahawk players that didn't get the credit they deserved? I mean, before DK Metcalf came in, I would say it's Tyler Lockett.
Yeah.
Yes, that's one for sure.
Because I thought at one point they're like, who the hell is Tyler Lockett? And I'm like, he's a top 20 wide receiver, and you're not even thinking about that. But sure enough, FanDuel lineup came around. I took him. I took him. I took DJ Moore. And these guys weren't even thinking of anywhere close to it.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. Some guys get overlooked. He's one of them.
I think a guy that's just really overlooked and a guy that just, people don't give him, I guess, the credit he deserves. I'm going to start this. It's going to be a hot topic. Jamal Adams. People don't give him the credit that he deserves, in my opinion. I wouldn't say he's overlooked because he's talked about a lot, but I think in terms of ability, he's completely just disrespected and overlooked in that regard. But they talk about him like he's like a bottom tier safety.
Well, the reason being is I think he drew the attention on him. He said he wanted out of New Jersey. That's how much respect I have for the Jets. He wanted out of New Jersey.
Nice.
But also, he was talking shit the morning that he was supposed to hop on a plane to Seattle. And then there was like, the contract extension, all that. Now, granted, I know how much these first-round picks cost as far as, from the salary cap and everything else. And the Seattle – the Seahawks as well as the Rams, because of salary cap wise, they can't really use their first round picks to begin with. So they trade them for assets. And I'm not going to take that away from the Seahawks. It's just that when you yourself put yourself in that situation, you mouth off to the media, you bring in your camp to, support you. And then as far as the defense goes, damn well that could have been improved. There was, as far as I'm concerned, from a non-biased perspective, the offensive line need bolstering up. Mm-hmm. Even after Carlos Dunlap got there, the pass rush could have been better. And even though Jamal Adams, some people will call him an edge rusher, some people will call him a DB, somebody will call him something else.
I'll call him a weapon.
Okay, how about we call him the Weapon X? Okay, sure. So you have Jamal Adams as the Weapon X. Mm-hmm. So with everything I just described, and do I think that he was one of the best players on that field? Absolutely. I think probably second best. For a Weapon X and the second best player on that starting defense, it gave up too many points, and they just went after the easy target. It's kind of like when I said, and I told all the Falcon guys this from Undrafted, I kind of said this, they're like, we have the best tight end in the draft, and probably the top receiving talent in the draft. We got Matty Ice. We got Calvin Ridley in case Julio gets traded. What could go wrong? And I'm like, do you not remember a younger Matty Ice? The best tight end of all time named Tony Gonzalez. Julio Jones, younger and not hurt.
Roddy White.
Yep, and Roddy White. Okay, so hold on. 4 pieces. I'm sorry. You want to know what's not changing? The coaching system. Well, so it seems that way. Guess what? Not everybody's got out of there, right?
Yeah.
If you're telling me that you're gonna think that it's gonna change about it, and yeah, you can't blame Matty Ice for this one like these unintelligent fans do, but they do. It's like, you want to know what's gonna stop that offense? Coaching.
Yeah.
And the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And any lead bigger than like 7 points.
Yeah. And I feel like most Falcons fans tend to, like Mike said, forget about their defense. Like, their defense is, in my opinion, I think Kyle Pitts was the best player in this class. I think their defense is so bad that they should have given him up and traded back in order to pick a defensive player, to justify picking a defensive player.
Because I had the Falcons trading with the Bears. That was me and Josh McSwain. We do the All Football podcast. I mean, we talk about soccer and stuff too, but we mentioned American football, CFL, XFL, all that sort of stuff. And we did a mock draft. I had the Falcons because this was a must rebuild phase now. So my thought is when you have Kyle Pitts here, it's like, okay, with Julio Jones and his salary cap, I looked at his contract. Apparently, there's only $2 million less than the whole thing guaranteed. Something crazy, stupid like that. So you're not moving on from Julio. You don't have another quarterback. You got everything here. You just need to re-up your offensive line and defense. You need everything.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, why would you decide to take this pick? Is it generational? Yeah, but he's not going to help you get any further.
Yeah.
It's like,
right.
okay, it's like, listen, doesn't matter what receiver you got in there. That wasn't the problem. You got Mike Davis, who's a reliable running back. That's not a problem. Your offensive line and everything defense is a liability. So
It's like
whatever you want to do, just remember, if you come across a strong defensive team, guess what? You might as well tell every single fan in your building to go home. And it's already an embarrassment at Mercedes-Benz Stadium because guess what? That is the only Chick-fil-A in America that absolutely makes no sense because most of your people go there for what? You're going to a football game, you can't get Chick-fil-A because of the old-fashioned rules. Like, come on. You got to wait for a Thursday night game in order to go to the Chick-fil-A there. Isn't that embarrassing?
well, I think to what Sam was saying, I
Monday
think
night or Thursday night.
I think to what Sam was saying, it's like the equivalent of putting frosting on an unbaked cake. It's like, yeah, the frosting's really good. I mean, it's like good, cream cheese frosting,
That's a
but
great analogy.
the cake isn't
Love
baked,
it.
so it's gonna, might look good on the top, but you dig into it and it's all, it's all gooey, and it's not a cohesive cake. It's not a team.
Yeah.
So I think if you take Sam's idea and you maybe trade back and you take a defensive player, get a couple picks, well, now your cake is baked. There's not the nice little frosting on the top, but it's edible and it's able to be molded and decorated after that into a good team. So they were a little bit opposite in their thinking of taking the frosting before they baked the cake.
Yeah.
Essentially, what you did is you took a turd, threw glitter at it, and expected to change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you put lipstick on a pig. Yeah, I can
It's
go with
still a
these analogies
fat
all day.
pig.
Yeah, and this is what teams do, especially when they're struggling. They will get the player that will make the headlines. Do you think that they would have made the headlines if they traded back and took Patrick Surtain? That would have been like, cool, you got a corner. But like to say but for like them to be able to put up on a billboard outside of the stadium, off this next exit, we have Kyle Pitts, the new
Broncos are
best tight end in
also
the
a
NFL.
draft loser. Just an FYI.
Yeah,
It's amazing, right? Because as far as the draft goes, it's my division. I give you know what? I'll give the Raiders a D.
yeah. The Raiders had a bad draft. They had a bad draft.
I could
Hold on. Morgan is second round. Morgan is
was a
second round.
good pickup at that
okay.
value.
The problem being is that they picked too many safeties, and there is no purpose of doing so. It's like if you take a safety with one pick and there's so much depth you need, why'd you take two more safeties?
I think some of those guys are going to play corner, honestly.
He might be.
But still, you had a lot of needs on that team. Your pass rush isn't that great. Offensive line could have used something. Yeah. So what are you going to do? You're going to try to patch in safeties and have them try and make them adjust to a new position?
Yeah.
And last year you got a corner and you thought he was going to be the best thing since sliced bread, and how'd that turn out?
Yeah.
How's your defense looking? Looking pretty bad. King Gruden is not running a good ship. But obviously, one of the best of the draft is the Chargers, and I think the Chiefs got B+. I'm excited for Nick Bolton to come in because I thought he was a first-round talent.
That's a great – yeah, Nick Bolton was a great value. I also really liked –
absolutely. We needed one.
I loved the Chargers pick. I thought they were going to have to trade up to get Slater, over the Giants or the Eagles. And the fact that they got Slater at, 13 or 14? Yeah. It was one of those two?
13.
A guy with versatility and just – that was almost one of the main pieces. They needed one more piece to solidify that they have a good offense for the future. I think that was one of the big pieces. You have your quarterback, you have your franchise tackle, and now you have franchise receivers. So
They
that
have
was
an A-plus
that-
draft.
Yeah, that
But
was big.
But going back to it, one of the teams that passed up on him that needed to take him, I think the worst. I think one of the worst drafts that I'm also now outside of what me and Tex did was I just kind of went winners and I went losers, and I said you cannot get something. And I'm not sure if you guys saw me go to Twitter and just do videos and basically mouth off about a couple of things. But one of the things I'm like, hey, Dave Gettleman, you should kind of go in the dictionary and look up something called offensive line because you have this fat bastard wide receiver who's trying to now go for tight end. And because why?
He had a Popeye's biscuit. That's why.
Yeah.
Oh, he had more than a Popeye's biscuit. This guy was eating like Pablo Sandoval, okay?
Even I
That fat
Pablo Sandoval and that pop fly in the foul, and he just takes the guy's nachos. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So let's see if I could go in a persona term here. You're telling me this fat bastard ate himself at the wide receiver position, and now he's trying to come back tight end. Listen, jerk off, we're going to have to do better than that, capiche?
Yeah, I mean,
Giants. Come on.
You want to talk about bad leadership?
Listen,
Dave
they
Gettleman
neglected the offensive line. Why'd you draft a wide receiver when you just signed one? The wide receivers is not the problem on that team.
Potentially the premier receiver that got out of the franchise tag spot in free agency was Kenny Golladay, and you get him to a massive 4-year, $72 million deal, and then you proceed to say, and then you already have Darius Slayton, who I already think is a good number 2 piece at a wide receiver position.
I agree.
And then you feel the need to neglect the offensive line for a quarterback. This is his
for the whole draft, mind you. The whole draft, they neglected offensive line, and that's what's going to bite him in the ass. The defense is fine. If you want 1 or 2 pieces, I get it. Wide receivers is not the problem. You got your running backs. What do you need?
Yeah,
offensive line. And my grade, as far as the All Football podcast, let's see, transaction, loser.
Yeah,
I really did like their trade with the Bears, though.
Yeah, that was a good trade.
How could you not?
That was a good trade for actually both teams. The Giants got an extra first, but once again, they're also passing up on Slater.
You port yourself with you see, when you're the Patriots and you can do whatever the hell you want, it's a luxury pick. When you draft Tony, that was a luxury pick that was just dumb.
Champagne, what's the phrase? Champagne taste on a beer budget?
Champagne taste and beer pocket. Yes. Yeah. That's a Mafia 2 reference, but it essentially goes from champagne taste on beer budget. Yes.
Yeah.
But essentially, right, for Seahawks fans, if you went out and you got, I guess you could say, let's say you didn't have a first or second round pick and you got 5 picks. Mm-hmm. If one of them is a quarterback, you're pissed.
Oh, I'm jumping and screaming.
It doesn't matter if it's the 7th round pick. If it was a quarterback, you would be throwing your chair back down. You're just gonna be like, "What on earth are you doing? Have you been drinking? You need to be exiled." You're sending the guy to the gulag.
Sam, we're gonna forget about the fact that I said Sam Mellinger late 7th. We're gonna totally forget that I said that and just move on.
No, the pain.
But I wasn't totally serious, but I was like, maybe we could take Sam Mellinger. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. I said, and I quote, I said, if we trade for the last overall pick and we take Sam Mellinger, I won't be mad.
So as far as the question for the podcast, I'm waiting for the upload, but you guys got to it when you guys got fully emotional into the depth of what happened this offseason, right?
We haven't recorded it yet.
Yes. I was really because you guys have really been quiet about it. You've been very optimistic about it. And I think the one thing that kind of goes into that is, I kind of know it as a fan, is like when you see a guy in the trade block or they say, we don't trust him or we don't like something. And so many players have power nowadays. I can't imagine the feeling in your stomach that you get. And you try not to think about it as it lingers on for months. And then meanwhile, before the allegations came out, so you have an unhappy Russell Wilson. He's got everybody, his girlfriend, his agent, trash talking on talk shows. You have your star guy that's thrashing the organization, and you have Deshaun Watson that wants to become a 49er. So I can imagine that. Listen, Sam, I didn't know you well enough then, but when I saw DeFran go with this, let me tell you something. The color was out of his face. It looked like this guy needed a sick bucket. This guy was not okay.
Oh.
I kid you not. It's a good thing that there was a lot of activity going on, and I was able to check up with them. The group chat was a lot active because legit, his mindset was not okay.
Well, it's also helpful. It also is in a unique situation for me, going back to being a fan of a team that's not in my area. I'm in the area of Chicago, right? And that was one of the rumored teams that he was going to go to. So all I heard all day at school, at practice, on the friggin' Zoom calls for class, oh, Russ is going to be a Bear. Russ is going to be a Bear. You got to buy a Bears jersey. I had my friends like promise me that they were going to buy me a Russell Wilson Bears jersey. I'm like, cut the crap. This is not happening.
That's a bittersweet thing for you. And listen,
it was really weird. It was a very, very weird moment for me.
Well, also, just remember, right? Before the Knicks were in the playoffs, I could wear this hat all day long, and we're just kind of like, guy would be having a sandwich here, be like, yeah, we suck. We get it.
Yeah.
Like, there's a guy I work with, and he sees the hat, and he goes, every time I see that, man, who is the Nick killer? Reggie Miller.
Yep.
It also made sense too because I kind of just hated the Knicks fans more than anything because like I said, there's different New Yorkers. Like there's some Knicks fans that are really awful, but they don't watch baseball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To a point, I could say that every single fan in a city is just a wee bit different. And I will even say that the Philadelphia fans used to be boo more than they cheer. After the Eagles won the Super Bowl, it toned down. It really did tone down. I kid you not.
It seems
like the Pittsburgh fans have gotten more salty and the Eagle fans have let up, which is actually weird because 4 years ago, that seemed impossible.
There's actually a great video on YouTube by a certain YouTuber who I won't mention, but it's the kind of the culmination of him being an Eagles fan, and he was at the Super Bowl. And when you see the look on his face, it's just pure like joy. Like the man, this is a grown ass man in tears. And I think that's when Eagles fans, their mindset switched because previously they hadn't won a Super Bowl since what, 1980? Am I mistaken?
Whole period up until that point. They had been no Super Bowls. They had no championships since like the 50s.
No, they won. Did they win? Oh no,
they did not win. They
had been to actually. If you want the biggest drought in American sports, it's actually the Arizona Cardinals.
They've been in the league for like 110 years. The league, they've been a team before the league, and they have 2 total championships. Overall.
So
hey, we're not going to talk about sports droughts. Sports droughts were not too fun for me to go through.
Hey, listen, it's fine because you already did it and you had everything going on for you. And to be honest, the first 3 years of his career, everyone was treating Chris Bryant like the next Derek Jeter. They really did.
Well, I still think he's pretty damn good. I mean, he's batting close to 300 this year, so I'm still on the KB hype train. I'm still on the KB.
My only concern is the contract year, and I'm very concerned because I just think that this team might be selling everybody off. And again, I just don't know what the Cubs ownership will do because I remember when they sold off certain pieces like Samardzija.
Yeah.
Didn't that stick out to you?
Yeah.
Starlin Castro for Addison Russell.
Okay. Addison Russell had a very good 2 to 3 year stretch there. But as a whole,
Starlin Castro was better. So listen, if you wanted to replace Starlin Castro with Javi Baez, that's understandable. But Addison Russell, I mean, listen, outside of his personal issues, which I will not get into, if you go by just talent-wise and everything else, Starlin Castro is still in the league. Addison Russell did get blackballed, but he wasn't great enough to even be considered as, a guy to bring back.
And this is weird because a lot of times people forget when they think of our 2016 championship year, they think Javi played short and Addy played second. Addy was our shortstop that year. He was our guy at short. And then the next year, and
it was, if I'm correct, it was a trade. Jason Kipnis was the second baseman.
No,
he wasn't.
No, we had Zobrist and Javi.
I thought Zobrist was playing the outfield during those games. I'm sorry.
He was like a second baseman / left fielder. He kind of played a little both, but he was.
And it also sucks. And I know his age was getting up there, but I'm actually happy, even though he was a division rival. If you just look at the way that Ben Zobrist played the game, phenomenal player, and it sucks that there's so many times where you want a guy to end up on top, and I think that's everybody.
Yeah.
But I think the worst thing that it's different if it's injuries and the guy felt like he can't make it anymore. It's different when a guy says it's his last year. But how did that guy end his career? Everyone's going to note it by he got permission to take team leave to figure out his divorce. And that is awful. And that's the only story I could think about where someone has a divorce in the middle of the season and he's taking team leave to sort everything. Absolutely.
It's heartbreaking. Just years after winning World Series MVP, I believe he went back-to-back. He won in 2015 with the Royals, I believe, and then we got him in 16, and then just kind of fell off after that. Man, felt bad, but I'll never forget. I will never forget his hit in the 10th inning of the Game 7 of the 2016 World Series. I will never, ever, ever forget that hit. Single greatest play of baseball I've ever witnessed in my life. Nice. Tears were running down my eye that day.
Well, listen, I could understand that, and I just want to see good baseball. But when you see the Cubs and everything else and what they're forming up, and I'm just kind of thinking to myself, wouldn't this just be a magical piece right here? Yeah, and like granted, the city of Cleveland hasn't won anything in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But the Cubs curse, that was just something. That was just a miracle in the making, right there.
I was taught about the Cubs curse. I was taught about the Cubs curse when I was in preschool. My preschool teacher taught the class about the Billy Goat curse, and I believe they were cursed ever since then. And then to see them win was so emotional.
Yeah. So, Sam, you got any good stories as such? You gotta have a few
stories. Oh, I got
as far as like a good baseball story.
Oh, baseball story. Oh, I don't think I have any of those immediately yet. I'm hoping to make some. I don't have any of those immediately yet.
There's a couple I wanted to mention now. The YouTube for Calling Strikes has actually been fairly new, but if you've ever looked at the podcast stuff, what I do occasionally is now this segment is the left field fan, where it's just kind of like I'm like the guy that sticks out in the room. It's a little awkward, but I'm happy. I'm a great fan. There's a segment I do, Conspiracy Strikes, and Conspiracy Strikes is the conspiracy theories about baseball. For example, there was a guy. If you didn't know this, every team is allowed, even if it's without reason, they could confiscate one bat from the other side. And what they do is they put it in the umpire's dressing room, and after the game, they examine this. So, there was a time where corked bats was common.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, it's regulated. So let's just tell you how it works. You got your bat like this, right? And the thing is, every bat has a certain amount of weight. So what they would do is they would go through the, basically, now some of them have the cup, some of them have it flat, whatever. But what they would do is they would have a drill big enough. They would drill through the center of that and fill it with champagne corks. It could be a champagne cork or a wine bottle cork, but they would shove more in there. And the only thing that really does is it makes the bat lighter. There's some that have actually put Super Balls in it. That was actually a story from Greg Nettles. He said a fan gave him a bat, and he hit a home run with that same bat in that game, but then he hit a base hit his second at bat. Super balls explode out of the bat. He hits first base for his single, and after they look at everything, they throw him out, and he was suspended a couple of games.
Yeah.
So my thought is with this corked bat, so they knew that it was going on in the dressing room. So what they actually did was a relief pitcher came from the dugout. He put a flashlight in his mouth from the clubhouse, went through the ceiling tiles and in the crawl space, went into the umpire's dressing room, replaced it with another bat, and brought the thing back over.
Wow.
And it had a different signature and everything else on it. So it wasn't a great job.
Yeah.
But, some of these conspiracies, it's usually like, okay, Barry Bonds and Balco Corporation or whatever, essentially a company that was involved in his PED scandal. And there is one guy still serving time that was employed or the head of Balco. You know what I mean? That's one of those conspiracy theories that are just sad. You know what I mean? There's some of them that are rigging, some of them are this. But when I think of that, when I think of a guy, usually these relief pitchers don't do anything. Mm-hmm. They're not allowed to be the athletes. It's like, and they're going to pop up. They're not allowed to catch it, certain things.
Yeah.
But when you have a relief pitcher going to retrieve some guy's bat to, not get suspended, or at least try not to get suspended, it's just it's one of those funny ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like when you hear about it's like there's a conspiracy theory, if we go back to basketball, about the San Antonio Spurs intentionally turning off the AC system.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
But do you remember Charles Barkley's excuse?
No.
Big old women in San Antonio sucking out all the cold air.
Oh my God.
Hey, yo, man. Victoria's a secret down in San Antonio with them big old women.
Oh my God. That's amazing. That's hilarious.
Literally, he goes, the big old woman in San Antonio. Literally, his excuse was the big old San Antonio woman suck out all the cold air in the AC system. Don't work.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
Seriously, if you hear the crap that comes out of his mouth, it's hilarious.
He's a funny guy.
Dude, he says that shit now, man. It's phenomenal. It's an absolute. I'm appalled about some of the stuff that he does, but I mean, dude, like there's one where, one of the guys goes, "Hey Chuck, how come you never buy your woman a watch?" And he goes, "What? There's a clock on the stove." And I'm like, "Oh, you gotta be kidding me, man."
Yeah, come on, man. That's not okay. That's not okay. Oh my God.
I mean, if you want to comment about how there was LAPD at the Clippers game, and he just goes, "LAPD, Chris Paul about to kick my ass," you know what I mean? That's funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
didn't he say something about they were talking about like arguing with a woman in like the kitchen, and he said, "I don't argue with her because she's got home court advantage in there." Oh my God, that was brutal.
Charles Barkley just says things, man.
He's like your uncle that like at the family party just says shit, and you have to just ignore it. You're like, this uncle.
Yeah.
I loved how he trashed the Suns organization, even though I played for him.
Yeah.
Like if you heard him, right, and he just goes, "There's plenty parking. You have the worst seat in the house. You could come down to center court. That's just how it is. You got the hot dogs. They got the hard buns. You know how sometimes they got the nachos. You got stale chips. You got cold cheese. You know how sometimes they have jalapenos? No, they give you pickles out of a jar, man. Come on, man."
That's funny.
Like if you ever listen to one of those guys, and you kind of wonder when the next baseball personality is going to be in there. But I mean, some of these people say that baseball is boring, and I think I do hate the people that are obsessed with basketball, but yet they watch golf, want to comment about baseball. Yeah, but, I mean, I can't watch golf. It doesn't matter who's on commentary, because you got some of these guys. Sir DeFran, We have Devin Kozlowski here.
We have
He is
Mr.
teeing off with the 9 iron.
And
Very
then there's
proud
just
to
Tony
have
Romo
his-
like, oh my God, Jim, did you see that drive? Tony
Tony
Romo
Romo
is.
just coming out and
Kozlowski,
repeating it.
proud man
This one's
of
gonna
his
go
Polish
365.
heritage.
This one's going
I want to see.
365.
I
Jim.
don't see. I don't watch golf either, but I just want to see. I want to watch golf and have Tony Romo perfectly predict. Like I think he's gonna rip out the 8-iron here. Oh, 300 feet, just like I predicted, and 10 feet from the hole. Jim,
Hey.
I called it.
You guys honestly want to know what happens when I attempt to hit a golf ball off a tee?
Is it something like when Mark Sanchez tries to throw a pass just like 30 yards to the right?
It kind of goes like this. Oh, you mother's ass. Where's that freaking thing going?
Yeah. Oddly enough.
You know,
Oddly enough.
I mean, I got something in my writing about this. Like, it was because you guys know I do a lot of writing. I do a lot of stories and such. Imagine a prime minister golfing and he's got an assistant, right? He just goes, imagine the wind hits and he just goes, damn it. Like in the middle of your swing, the hat flies off because of the wind. It's a miserable day. Where'd it go? Drink, sir. No, I'm not thirsty. Where's the bloody ball? Damn it. No worries, sir. I suck balls.
No, this is gonna surprise people, and I'll be 100% honest. I go golfing. I can't drive to save my life, but I putt and chip like a champion. Because when I used to golf with my grandfather, we would never drive. We would just work putting and chipping, and I am really good at both of those. But I can't drive for nothing. I drive the ball like 25 yards. It is bad, but I get on the green and I'm prime Tiger Woods.
You know, I hear a lot about that, and there's some guys I know, like Masahiro Tanaka. I'll get into a controversial category in a minute, but I know he could drive 300 yards straight, but he says the putting game is not good. But speaking of which, I'm not sure if you knew about this, but are you guys into Olympics by any chance, or just moderately depending on the game?
When it's on, I'll watch some of it.
Just like beach volleyball, really. It's just kind of what I like.
Gee, I wonder why.
Those dudes are absolutely insane. I love watching dudes play
Damn it,
beach
right
volleyball.
before I was about to say simp. But
okay, wait, hold on. Let's back up. Pause. AJ, we've established switch hitter, remember?
I like the term backwards mechanic, Barry, but okay. That guy likes to have his Polish smorgasbord, a lot of variety. Ironically, in Chicago, it's the perfect place for it. A good.
I am Polish, so that joke worked wonders there.
Polish.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yes, probably one of my favorite ones too. But anyways, if you didn't know this, now there's been a conspiracy that Josh and I have talked about in a lot of the All Football podcast, and it's common for a lot of the MLS teams to sell off their best star to a European team, and basically they control his rights.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, hey, even though you're an American, buddy, I want you in the FIFA World Cup. Recommend Team USA in case you pull a hammy or something.
Yeah.
So if you look at it, it seems like, and here's what comes down to too. If you're a professional baseball player in Japan, South Korea, Israel is a qualifier for the World Cup baseball, believe it or not. That came out of left field to me. But
that's going to be a story to watch.
Yeah, Japan's the host, so that's by default. And Masahiro Tanaka is able because he's playing in Japan. But Major League Baseball, if you are on the 40-man roster, you are not eligible to play in the Olympics.
So it's essentially when the NBA didn't allow players to play in the Olympics.
Well, it kind of goes like this. It went by money, investment, playoff run. And if you remember, I didn't agree with this year's NBA because you made the year walk around. You shortened the schedule, everything to cater to the Olympics, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's bitching about the All-Star game being like, oh, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Hold on, put on the brakes. None of you guys are vaccinated. You're worried about the All-Star game, but you're going to go overseas and play basketball, and for what? you're trying to get the gold medal. Now, listen, everyone says that it's a walk-on and a walk-off for the American basketball team for the most part.
Yeah.
You got this big all-star group of guys, everything else. But, it's a lot different because with basketball, I think it goes down to expansion, money, and you want your guy over there.
Yeah.
Because you want the guy being like, hey, I want Paul George representing the Clippers if that's the case. If you have a smaller team, you want him going over there and see if he could make money for the team. If they buy a jersey, buy a hat, buy whatever.
Yeah.
But if we go by baseball, it doesn't matter if you're South Korean. By the way, Ryu of the Blue Jays, he is a gold medalist from South Korea from last time around. He can't compete on the South Korean team this year, which did qualify, mind you. So it doesn't matter what country you're from, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, America, you cannot represent your proud nation. And some of them aren't even on the active roster. Some of them haven't debuted in MLB yet. And they're not allowed. So if you're on the 40-man roster, good luck.
That is
it's not happening.
Interesting.
That's
yes, and my just thought is it's like I understand that there's going to be a lot of good college players out there, and I know that there's a lot of overlooked players and a lot of players that are young. But, I mean, if they ever had a football Olympics, right, and because of all this guaranteed contract nonsense, it's a little different like the NFL versus baseball and basketball where it's all guaranteed.
Yeah.
But if there was I guess you could say an Olympics for, contact football, American style.
Yeah.
Would you be upset with one of your guys going overseas and playing?
No, because Russell Wilson would finally have an offensive line.
Love it.
That's a good
Love
one.
it.
That's a good one. I mean, it depends. It depends. I feel like I wouldn't want my best players playing over there. You know what I mean? Because.
Well, I mean, if it's not your best players, Sam, just remember this, right? They're not going to have, you would hope not, right? Now, I always thought of this as have this be organization to organization. I remember when Robinson Cano, this was before all the scandals and everything else, but it was after his first year with the Mariners, he went over for an event with 3 other players to Japan. He ended up getting hit by a pitch and breaking his pinky toe. And for the majority of the next season, it affected his swing because this event was in, I want to say, January of that year, and spring train started, next month, basically.
Right.
So, if you kind of said, right, like imagine if it happens this year and, the ownership goes like, hey, we want, let's say it's DK Metcalf. Is DK Metcalf going to be an Olympian? Now, technically, he did have a trial. But it's for a different sport.
Yeah, wait.
But just remember this, fellas. With everything going on with the team facility, if you're not at a team facility, they don't have to pay your contract, and they're making it known. And the players' union gets stepped on like stairs. Let's be honest here. So with that being said, right, it's amazing what he's been doing. I'm giving him a lot of credit for it. But I know the two of you would be almost pulling your hair out if he pulled a hamstring or he did something to his calf.
Like if he was running a route and he breaks out and he sprains his ankle or something.
No, I'm talking as in he's in the Olympic Games or he's doing that run, he's doing that sprint. If he's at the Olympics and he gets hurt, if you see him go down and hit the dirt, you are basically pulling your hair out. And that's just the risk of that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Like if DK were to be running and he steps weird and he strains his calf or his hammy or something, and just like that, he has to miss the first couple weeks of OTAs, and then going into the year, he's kind of slow and he's not fully 100% ready. That would really I would be pissed. I would be like,
well, and AJ, there's a guy on your team named Patrick Mahomes. Maybe you've heard of him. Brett Veach has been telling him, "Hey, don't play basketball. You're not allowed." And he said it.
Actually, there's more to it than that. It's not a phone call. It's in his contract.
Right. So clearly we know where the general manager lies with this discussion.
I'm not sure if you guys know about this, but have you heard about some of the crazy crap bull that's been in some of these baseball contracts?
Oh, I'm sure there's some crazy
I'm
stuff
sure
in
that
there.
there's some like.
Well,
whack-
actually, I had the opportunity. This was back a couple of years ago. Do you remember when the Mets they lost the World Series, but it's the year afterwards or so? Remember when Yoenis Cespedes is battling a bunch of injuries, DeFran?
Yes. 2015, 16?
Yeah, about that. So what
Yeah.
happens is, Sam, if you're not familiar,
Mhm.
Yoenis Cespedes is a big guy into golf. And so what happens is everybody knows typically tea time is 7 or 8 o'clock. And the reason being is because if you're one of those elder guys, you're retired, you're in the middle of a field. It's sunny. And if it's anywhere between 10 and 2, because you got to start the first hole, it ends up getting too hot. So the problem being is he's got some of these leg issues. Some say it was calf, some say it was ankle. Whatever the case may be, he's not 100%.
Mhm.
Imagine you're a Met fan, okay? You know that he finished 18 holes of golf this morning, and the manager, because of his injury, did not put him in the lineup.
Yeah.
What's your first reaction?
I would be angry about that. Like especially because, especially if he's doing everyday things and he's getting all that done, and then, you're in a situation where I've heard the name Yoenis Cespedes before, and I know a little bit about him, and like if you were to just say like kind of asking Mike this question, you remember when Russ played baseball over like the spring and stuff sometimes
For the Yankees, baby. Woo, AJ.
for the Yankees. What if Russ like says, "Oh yeah, I can't train this off season. I my shoulder's hurting. It's messed up. I can't do it." And then you see him a week later going out and playing for the Yankees. Like that's kind of how I
It's a
would react
weird
putting
line
it in
for
my
me.
terms.
It's a weird line for me because it's like at one point you obviously want your guys healthy and you want them to be in incubation chambers just waiting to start the season. But on the other end, there's like, I mean, they're human beings. And, Russell Wilson is doing something, in my opinion, as long as he doesn't get hurt, baseball's beneficial for him, keeping his arm loose, keeping his arm warm, working out, getting exercise and everything like that. Obviously, there's the risk of injuries, but I think at a certain point you have to draw the line and just say, you know what, you're a human being, you're gonna do human stuff. You are, as long as you're not out there, doing crime and drugs and whatever. I think you have to let him be a human being at some point. So I never really had a problem with Russell Wilson playing baseball. So I think that's kind of
Also, here's the other thing too: is he outside that one at bat, right? And that was before this monster contract, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
yes, that was the
Pre
There,
big contract.
there was a couple of them, but this was before that mammoth of a contract.
yes.
So before this mammoth contract, we're thinking, okay, we could let this ride. And also, it's not stealing an at bat from somebody else when I think it was really crucial this year. But going forward, right? If you have a player on your team, let's say it is Chris Carson, who's dealt with some injuries. I say this is probably the most accurate thing out of the bunch. Chris Carson is spending Saturday on the golf course. And you know how this goes, DeFran. There's a couple of bad trenches on there. There's some of them where you have to walk up and down. It's not fun being in the sand pit.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if Saturday he spends all day golfing and he is listed as inactive for Sunday's game? Are you pissed?
You see, like it's kind of tough because golf is such like a lax sport that I don't know if you can say that golf determines his immediate health.
Well, I'm just saying, if let's say he's got let's say he's got that foot problem going on again, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how did you go and play all these games of golf and you're saying that you can't run
stand
properly.
around for like 4 hours
You,
straight.
you, you understand what I mean? It's
Yeah.
very different if it's a different injury where it's involves a surgery, it's season ending. How you can play golf, I have no idea. I think it takes more out of you than people think it does. I think it's definitely a very physical sport, more than people think, because of everything that goes on. But just the concept, I think if Carson golfs all day Saturday but is inactive Sunday, I'd be pissed. I'd be livid.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there.
Yeah.
I can understand it.
I can understand to a point.
Would I be happy? Okay, I think this is the way to kind of end it off here. Would I be happy? Obviously not. But I don't think that. So, like, playing golf is not a high risk thing, right? Again, he's not out there dunking basketballs, landing on the foot. So I think if it's kind of a low risk thing and it was such a low percentage that he got hurt, but somehow, he got injured, I think I'd be obviously upset, but I don't know if I'd blame him necessarily.
Yeah.
But like,
it's
again,
different with Aaron Boone, because if you didn't know this, the reason why A-Rod came to New York in early 2004 was because Aaron Boone was playing pickup basketball and he tore his ACL.
That's crazy.
Now that would be big. That would be big.
Yeah, he's playing pickup basketball, jump shot, tears his ACL, calls Brian Cashman, the general manager, and they put in act plans now. Within 2 weeks, it's done.
Yeah, A-Rod. That's
Yes,
I want to just see the call, like the
but,
shot. He's on the ground. He's like, get A-Rod right now. Activate protocol 60. Execute order 66, and then you just hear the Imperial music, and you just hand the big ass stack of money to A-Rod.
No, could you just imagine like A-Rod's just like, in a full black suit, and then next thing you know, it's like, your weapon, sir. It's a black baseball bat.
Yeah.
With
he just nods.
Like a red lizard grip on it.
Yeah. Oh my God. That'd be amazing.
But to continue off of this point, I asked Danny Graves. He was a former closer of the Cincinnati Reds. Not a big name really that you would think of, but he was doing a sports talk show at the time. I just suddenly stumbled upon it during across my Facebook feed at the time, and he decided to reveal things that was a big no-no in his contract. So you're probably thinking, what could this be? So what do you think would be crazy if you're a MLB pitcher? What
no eating gas station sushi. I think that's just a universal rule of thumb that everybody should abide by. And if it was in
sushi on Sunday.
Yeah, and if it was in his contract, I think that's just smart by the Reds, honestly.
Okay. What do you think, Sam?
I'm sorry. What was the question? I didn't get the full.
What do you think would be something that would be banned from a major league pitcher doing?
Oh, like me. Okay, that makes sense. I mean,
so he didn't go into everything, but he named me a couple, and I'm like, this kind of makes sense.
No playing catch with your kids.
Really?
None.
Like realistically, it would probably, I don't know. It probably just involves like no recreational stuff. Like that's what I would imagine. I mean, like that's really all I could imagine to put in like a clause for a contract. Like, don't go running around playing flag football like for a football contract. Try to be like, no running around playing rec flag football with a bunch of nobodies for 2 hours, and then you run him to tear your Achilles.
Yeah,
but like
was not.
I can't imagine anything immediately. Like
anything that's off the table, like immediately.
I mean, I'm sure like nothing really comes to mind, honestly. I can't think of anything that would just like be like immediately like, all right, this is like the groundwork. We're saying that you cannot do this 100% of the time automatically. Like I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
He said this. He goes, was not allowed to play pickup basketball. One. Yeah. So this about Mahomes, when I heard about that, everyone's like, what do you think about that? I'm like, well, to me, this is not new.
Yeah.
Right.
Was not allowed to own or operate any form of motorcycle.
You see, Seahawks fans have a history with that because we had a second round
Malik.
We had a second round draft pick, Malik McDowell. And I thought it was a pretty good get at 35. And he was a big man, and his rookie year, he's looking good in training camp. And then the next thing you know, I get the news report, ATV accident. He was off-roading. He rolls over and he hurts his neck and he hurts his back and he's out for the year, and he never played a snap for the Seahawks and still has not played a snap in the NFL.
Didn't he just sign with the Cleveland Browns though?
He signed somewhere.
I believe it was Cleveland.
Yeah, but
that's not bad.
He has not played a snap in the NFL. So
right.
You know,
anyone remember the Ben Roethlisberger incident?
No, I do not.
Which Ben Roethlisberger incident are we talking about?
I'm referring to the motorcycle crash.
Oh yes. I do remember that actually.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. And here's probably the hardest one that would be for me, was not allowed to go in the ocean, period. And some people are like, wait, why? Well, let's see. That eliminates sharp rocks on the bottom, cliff diving, all water sports.
Like not even going to the beach, like you can't like walk like in like the water.
I just want to imagine.
You can't go out in the ocean. It's like you could sunbathe, but you're not allowed to go out in the ocean.
I just want to imagine like he's like at the beach and he like puts his toe in the ocean. There's just like men in black suits just come up and tackle him like in the sand, just like take him away like headlocked.
Can you just imagine it's like the only guy on the beach that's in a full suit? It's like you're seeing some sort of NCIS or something. You just got a guy. He's got the shades on. He's got the clipboard.
Yeah, he's sitting in the corner. He's like, "Boys, we got him." They send him in.
Helicopter drops down with the ladder. There's like a SWAT team.
just like tackle him down, drag him out of the water.
You better not.
Throw him in the back of a truck.
And they don't even go to the police station. They go straight to the GM's office, and he's like,
"I told you, man.
We don't play games." He rips the logo off his jersey, like he's just out. He's cut.
Grabs it and yanks it off.
Cut immediately.
He's like turn around. He takes his name off.
Oh my god. I think that's the perfect ending note right there.
Alan McGillicuddy, yes. Detective Griggs, part of Cincinnati PD. I just want to let you know you're revoked. And if you want to cost up some dough, I will rip up the picture of you putting your foot into the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, last thing. Have you guys ever watched Blue Mountain State? Because I just thought of a great example of this. No. There's an episode in Blue Mountain State, and this is obviously a little bit adult, but there's an episode in Blue Mountain State where the coach wants Thad Castle to return, so he sabotages him with like him around like women and drugs, and he's like, "Hey, if you don't return, this is not going to look good for the NFL draft scouts." He's like, "Okay, I'll return. I'd like to think that like they have like blackmail pictures of just him like at like parties, and they're like, "You want us to show your wife?" No, okay.
Except for this, it's just him like sticking his big toe in the ocean.
Yeah, it's just
you see this. You see this? Look what we got here.
Yeah, we got you now, buddy.
You hear like Seth MacFarlane's voice in the back just being like, "What the hell is this? Excuse me? What the hell is this?" It's like, you missed your contract? Well, I am under contract. It's like I'm still under contract, right? What do you mean are you still under contract? You see this? It's going into the friggin' ocean, okay?
Yeah.
All
right.
I guess that's the best way to do it. I know you guys got work to do. So again, DeFran, Sam, I'm glad I got to talk just sports with you in general. And one thing I wanted to do is every time I invite somebody on, I kind of want this to be their episode. And it was actually kind of cool getting, your kind of podcast, even if it was away from like your team per se.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Onto, just a different platform and get to BS, because at the end of the day, we're all fans here. And this is what we do. This is what we love.
Yes.
And there's a reason why I was excited about this. And well, I had a blast, and of course it never disappoints. You guys rock. So guys, before we take off, Sam, I'll start with you. I guess just make the due diligence, say where to find you, the podcast, everything else.
My @ on Twitter is @TreyBrown season spelled SZN. Go check me out there. Obviously, go check out the podcast, the Always Compete podcast on YouTube. Anywhere where you get your podcasts, go ahead and tune in. We drop a lot of content. We're releasing it pretty consistently. Thank you to AJ for having us on and being able to talk some
Always.
sports and just being able to have a good time. And I'm going to pass it on to Mike.
I am Mike DeFran7 on Twitter, and if you want to find me, you're gonna have to talk to the FBI because I'm currently on their most wanted list. But that's a terrible joke. I thought of that when Sam was up.
Did you take the Selena Gomez thing too far, buddy?
Oh my God. Exposing this man over and over again.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
That is against law in the city of Chicago.
There's no way I could top what he just said. So thanks for having us on.
Everybody, this is AJ Torres from Calling Strikes, courtesy of Undrafted Sports. Mike DeFran, Sam Belcher. This was an amazing time, and we are out. Take it easy. We love you all. See ya.